Good evening and welcome back to 13 Horror Nights. It's episode 6 and tonight's movie is Screamers. In my Capture Kill release video, I talked about this article I found that was like 5 recent found footage movies that you've never heard of but will restore your faith in the medium. This is another one from that list. Now, the thing that they said in their review that was the main draw of this movie is that the acting was amazing. And I've seen in other reviews that they also agree the acting is very good, but this is a movie where the reviews are very split. It seems that, like, the horror fanatics and the critics like it, and the general public just hates this movie. This has the lowest rating out of any of the movies I'm watching this month on IMDb at 4.4. The plot for Screamers is that it involves those terrible jump scare screamer videos online, and I would like to just take a quick second to point out the fact that I have been doing this channel for years, and I have never, ever done a jump scare. At least not intentionally. But anyway, this is about, like, those types of videos, and there's this account that keeps uploading those types of videos to a site, and the site admins start wanting to learn more about these videos. And it just seems like this rabbit hole of, like, these things actually seem to be real, and it involves a missing girl that's been gone for years. And as they go deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole, they discover that these may not be normal screamer videos. There's something a lot darker going on. Coincidentally, the plot of this movie is almost just like the plot of another movie that I'm watching later this month, also found footage, except that one has very good reviews on IMDb, so it'll be a good, like, comparison study between the two movies, but again, we'll get to that when we get to it. I think that just due to the nature of the genre, found footage movies in general are going to get worse reviews, because it's really not for everybody. It is for me, though, so I think I'm going to like this movie just fine, but again, I've been proven wrong in the past. I thought that movies like The Descent and American Werewolf in London and Willow Creek were going to be movies I liked, and I absolutely hated them, so I guess the only way to know is to find out. See you in a few hours, but for you, it's only going to be a couple seconds. Alright, I have finished watching Screamers, and I didn't love the movie, but I didn't really dislike it either. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. There are problems with this movie, no doubt about it, but that mostly stems from what the movie's not as opposed to what the movie actually is. The people are right about the acting in this movie being very good. It is. It really does come off like you're just watching people interact with each other. The two leads are Tom, played by a guy named Tom, and Chris, played by a guy named Chris. And the way that they talk and interact with each other, it's a lot like two friends that have known each other for a while. They also both have character archetypes, or heck, even people archetypes that we all know very well. Tom is like this, like, big shot, eyes on the prize, like, I'm gonna be something amazing one day type of business guy. And Chris is more like the quiet hipster, I think I'm smarter than you, like, I'm one step ahead of the crowd type of person. They're both just, like, different flavors of D-bag. It's not that they're insufferable, but they're both definitely, like, very selfish, one-minded type of people. They're the heads of a video sharing site named Jiggler, and the thing about Jiggler is that it's essentially YouTube, except the algorithm is even more invasive. It's like, the trademark is, the more you get to know Jiggler, the more Jiggler gets to know you, which is horrifying as an idea, and they do address that, and of course the CEOs are like, whatever, we're making it better for the viewer just by getting to know them, but there is a breach of privacy that is not lost on the movie itself, definitely. And I have to say, as realistic as the acting is, one thing that is so unbelievably and utterly unrealistic is the way the characters react to the Screamer videos. I was kind of under the impression that everybody hates them, because they're cheap shots, there's no effort, it's just jump scare screaming in your ear, making you jump. It might be funny to inflict on somebody else, but as, like, something on its own, it's not something you appreciate. But then they see the Screamer video in the graveyard and they're like, oh man, this is the coolest thing ever, gotta upload it, and it becomes a viral video. That part I can see, like, maybe, people still remember that one jump scare commercial with the, car going through the field and, like, behind a clump of trees and then a zombie jumps out. People still remember that, so this might be something like that, but I just can't imagine someone in real life seeing a video like that and not getting angry at it, because it's stupid, it's awful. I myself am kind of high-strung and susceptible to jump scares in regular life anyway, so throughout this entire movie, I was kind of like on the defensive. I couldn't really appreciate the Screamer video itself for what it was, because the entire time I was thinking, something's gonna pop out, something's gonna pop out, something's gonna pop out, and it's gonna yell in my ear. That's a problem. That's, I think, one of the biggest problems with this movie. The fact that they decided to base this entire premise around a Screamer video. If they had done something like an actually like creepy video, like a really weird video that you don't know what to make of, but it's really creative, something like Salad Fingers or Obey the Walrus or like Marble Hornets, it's like something that's actually like scary and not in a jump scare way, I think would be a lot better to base this entire full-length movie around. However, to this movie's credit, it isn't just one jump scare after another. In fact, there are very few scares throughout this entire movie. Unfortunately, most of them are the exact same jump scare, but they seem to want to save that for last and let most of the build-up come from the mystery of the whole thing, which I do think is done very well. It starts out with this just being some random video that they sent into Jiggler, and then they uploaded it, and then it went viral. But then they noticed that in the comments, a lot of people saying, this looks just like Tara, this missing girl from a few years ago, and they're right. It does look exactly like her. And due to the very invasive algorithm of Jiggler, they were able to find an address of the people who uploaded it. When they call the people, they get this woman who calls herself Tara, who just answers really vaguely and cryptically, and like so like mysteriously, and they're not helpful at all. But when they do a little bit more digging, they find things that make this whole thing tell like a very specific story, something that makes it all seem like this is a hoax, this is a prank. And their idea is to go to this person that is using a missing girl to hoax a video and get viral fame, to confront them. And I guess that would like be good press for the site or something, because once they find out that this is exploiting a missing girl and this is the video that is at that point defining their site, they freak out because that's bad PR. And they take care to make it clear that they're more concerned about the fact that it's bad PR than the fact that it's unethical. One thing this movie does that I think is one of its strongest points is a lot like the movie Afflicted, where that it starts so perfectly mimicking something very specific, and then it turns into a horror movie. In Afflicted, it was like a vlogger style, like travel blog, or like something you would see on YouTube or Instagram. In this one, it's just like a low budget documentary made about a starting up company. I would say that Screamers works better as a mystery movie than a horror movie, because when you get right down to it, there aren't a lot of real scares in it, but the mystery that they set up is very well done. The details and just the slow build is done very well, but once that's all set up, I didn't really think they had that satisfying of a conclusion. It wasn't bad, but it was just kind of eh. I would say that if this seems like it might be your thing, check it out, but if it doesn't like grab you just in the description, I wouldn't recommend watching it, because there are some rather annoying things about Screamers. Most of the bad reviews that I read on IMDb concerning this movie said something along the lines of the fact that there was just a lot of build-up and no payoff, which is fair. This movie is mostly build-off, and there isn't that much of a climax to it. But for what it is, like, the journey along the way, I do think that there are a lot of good things in it. Does that make it a great movie? No, but it makes it better than some of the reviews would lead you to believe. If you're actually interested, I'd say watch it for yourself and come to your own conclusion. Now going into spoilers, they do talk about this in the trailer. The things that makes them believe that this is all just an elaborate hoax is the fact that things line up way too well. One of the graves in the background of the original video is Francis Tumblety, I believe his name is, who was one of the prime suspects as the perpetrator of the Jack the Ripper murders. And they see this as like, oh, okay, so this video was uploaded by a missing woman and the ghost of Jack the Ripper. And that's why they're so eager to go over there and prove that this is a hoax, because it has hoax written all over it. Especially considering how unbelievably not helpful and secretive Tara is on the phone, and how she keeps, like, speaking like she's being held hostage by someone who she calls Francis. It all is very suspicious and very cheesy and hokey, and it doesn't seem real. But once they start actually getting there, things just seem wrong. And the first, I would say, real scare in this movie is that they're at the house, and it's night, and the person who is recording pans across, and for a split second, you see the figure that looks like the screamer face in the video. You see them, and then they pan back, and they're not there anymore. And this happens a few other times. But they manage to walk away unscathed, because to them, absolutely nothing happened. And the next day, they're all mad at Tom for just driving them there without letting them know, because they were under the impression that they were going to go to one of the four, Abby, her, like, cousin's house first, and then, like, the next day they were going to go to the creepy house, but Tom just drove them there. And the next day, two of the people just don't feel like it, so the other two, Tom and Griffin, they go to the house. And Tom just, like, full-on breaks in. The door does open by itself, but he just breaking and entering, and they see... There were two Screamer videos, the one that takes place in the graveyard and one that takes place in a bedroom, and they see the bedroom that the other one was recorded in, and the car alarm goes off for some reason, and Tom leaves. And then Griffin is just standing there waiting for him to come back. He's not into this at all. He just wants to leave. And then you see the figure from the Screamer video walk in the background. And this is the point where I sort of took out one of my earbuds and, like, sat back because I knew that a jump scare was coming. And then, sure enough, he turns around and that exact same figure comes charging at the camera, and he makes that exact same scream. It's not even like, it's literally the exact same soundbite of the scream. So then Tom comes back, and then he gets got too. And then you cut to the people at Emma's cousin's house, and they got a text saying, oh, you gotta come over, the Tara and Francis are here, and it's very clearly a trap to the audience, but they don't know that. And they go there, and they see Tara, like, crying in a corner, and they realize that it was a trap because Francis, I think that's supposed to be Francis, attacks them. And the cousin, like, runs out of the house, because she was the one recording, and she runs out of the house, and she gets chased by this figure. And then it cuts, you don't know what happened to Chris, the second person there, but the third one, Abby, she's, like, hiding in the closet. And one thing I saw is that there's a bunch of shoes on the ground, and I think the implication was the fact that once you're invited in this house, you don't come out. Again, Francis, like, pops out, and then you see somebody uploading a new video to Jiggler, and it's just like the first jump scare video. It's in the graveyard, except it's Abby as the girl. No, not Abby, Emma. Anyway, the second biggest problem in the movie is the way that they decided to revolve it around jump scares, but I think that the biggest problem with this movie is the fact that it sets up a genuinely interesting mystery and like atmosphere, and then it doesn't really do anything with it. Along the way, it's good, but it doesn't really wrap it up in a satisfying way. This is exactly how I pictured this movie ending. They all get killed, and then there's a new video. But there's not even, like, speculation as to what exactly happened, or why it happened, or why the ghost of Jack the Ripper would want to make jump scare videos, or anything like that, how Tara went missing, what ultimately happened to her, whether she's complicit in all this, or is being controlled. This movie leaves so many unanswered questions. This is why I said at the beginning that the problems revolve around what the movie isn't, as opposed to what the movie is, because if you just take it at face value, there isn't anything, like, terrible about it, but it has potential that it doesn't use. If you want to see this exact same idea, but it's clever and scary from beginning to end, I would recommend Hell House LLC. I think, for the most part, it's just mediocre. It's not bad, but it's not anything to write home about. Alright, I'll see you guys on next Friday for the continuation of 13 Horror Nights.